Okay, so I'm with Jane Curtis. She's one of my private coaching clients. Jane, why don't you tell us a bit about what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I am a event fundraiser. That is my background. So I've done that for 20 years. And I worked within charity in-house until 2018 when I decided to become a consultant. So I set myself up as a sole trader and started working on a kind of one-to-one basis with some charity clients. And I would go in and sort of audit their events programs and recommend where they could make changes and and just being more effective really and raise more money. So that was what I was doing until the beginning of this year when I decided I actually wanted to work with more people, because I kind of realized that there were an awful lot of charities who wouldn't be able to, nor would they ever consider hiring a sort of consultant at a very kind of high price point. That just wouldn't enter their kind of their orbit. So I just decided I was going to look at doing a kind of one-to-many model.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's where that sort of came into. I started thinking about a membership. So that's what I've been doing most recently.
Okay, and we've been working together around 3 months, I think. So, what were things like in terms of the membership before we started working together?
So it was just an idea. It was literally just an idea. I wasn't 100% sure that was the right idea either. I kind of knew I wanted to teach and be in front of more people, but I didn't know what that kind of looked like. So I remember sort of reaching out to you and being very unsure, and was sort of like, I just kind of want to bounce some ideas around in the first place, because well, working by yourself, it's quite isolating, right? And it can be quite difficult to just have someone that you kind of trust that will kind of give you your best, your best intention, best interests at heart, but also be that kind of be that kind of objective sort of sounding board. So that was really what I was looking for, which is when I came to you. And I think our first session was just sort of brainstorming whether or not the membership was the right kind of model for what I wanted to do. So
yeah, and it turned out it was. I think it was really a soul calling for you, wasn't it? So what happened next in the coaching? I know you initially had a different launch date in mind, didn't you? So talk about that a little bit.
So I think we started working together probably, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks before the pandemic sort of really hit in this country. So things were looking pretty different back then. And my children weren't at home, for a start. So things were, and I just felt like September, for some reason in my head, it was like, let's go for spend the next few months just kind of working out this idea. And then I was going to have August off with my children, and then a launch in September. So that was the kind of plan that I had in my head. And then quite early on, I think you sort of said, I think we're being too cautious. Let's put it forward, and let's try and go for a June launch date. And then, of course, coronavirus all happens. And
actually, how did you feel when I first said that? Because I think when I first said June, you were a little bit surprised, weren't you?
Yeah, I was surprised, and it felt very unnerving. I just sort of wasn't. I wasn't sure that we could achieve that. I just wasn't entirely convinced. I really liked your optimism, but there was a big bit of me that was just like, everything's stacked against me. That's kind of that feeling. But then, I actually started getting quite used to the idea, and I think I embraced it fairly quickly and was just like, come on, let's do this. It sounds like a really exciting challenge. Let's just go for it.
So you made the decision, didn't you, this was what you were going to do. And then, of course, the pandemic really took off. That was an added challenge. But what I loved about you and what you did is that you didn't use it as an excuse. A lot of people would have said, oh, well, it's too much now. The kids are at home. Rah, rah, rah. You didn't do that. You stepped up to the plate and you had committed to June. And so we stuck with that and you just kept going. But it wasn't easy, was it?
No, it definitely wasn't easy, but there was something inside me that was like, now is the time. You've got to sort of take this opportunity, because the people I wanted to serve, they needed support, like they really needed it. So it's like, don't delay, you know, I need to start getting this membership up and running because they need it right now. For all the reasons that I was feeling panicked, they too were sort of feeling, you know, similar sort of stress. So it was like, yeah, now's the time.
Yeah, great. And I know I encouraged you to do mindset work and journaling as well as part of the process. Do you think that helped you to get in touch with the, you know, the divine timing and your own resilience to do it now rather than later?
Yeah, 100%. And I'd never done any of that sort of work, not properly anyway. And so it was really, really new to me. But all the books that you suggested really, really helped. It just sort of reframed things for me. You know, I'd always been aware of kind of journaling and meditating, but I'd never actually really actively done it. But I think you sort of telling me and kind of giving me permission and being sort of, you know, this will actually be in your best interest to try some of these things. And you were definitely right, because it, and you know, it's worked on so many levels, not just in my business level, but also in my kind of own well-being, and just going through this really hectic time, which is extremely stressful and pressured, and actually remembering to be present and just to take each moment and all of that. So all that mindset work has been really invaluable. And now I can start to kind of impart some of that on my clients as well.
Yeah, so it has a ripple effect on. Well, I'm sure people are dying to know, what was the result of you launching your membership? So bearing in mind, this was from an idea, you had nothing in place. I don't think you had a group when we started working together. You didn't have an email list. Excuse me. So it was literally from idea. So it was your first ever time launching, ever. So share, like, how many people did you get in your group initially, your email list, and then how did the launch go?
Yeah, so I set up a Facebook group fairly early on and started doing little kind of Facebook lives in there and sort of building a bit of a name for myself there. So I think that came first, and then my email list grew out of that. So I think by the time I opened up my kind of opt-in for the webinar for the launch series. By the time I actually opened the kind of doors to the membership, I had about 165 people opted in to the webinar.
Okay.
I had about 450 on my email list.
Wow, that's
and about the same in the Facebook group. So they mirrored each other quite well.
Okay, so I'm just going to stop there and just summarize for people, because you know, that is actually a really amazing result in our industry, to build an email list from 0 to 450 in 3 months. Amazing. And an engaged list as well. So just to reiterate the numbers, you built your Facebook group to around 450, you built your email list to 450-ish, and then you had 160 people opt in for your launch experience.
That's right. Yeah.
Excellent. Well done. I'm always so chuffed when I hear it again. So, okay, so then how many people, so you did a launch series, I gave you the strategy for that, but you did all the work. And it was a series of content videos in your group over 5 days. I helped you with all the emails of what goes where. And then how many people signed up for your membership?
So 19. I was going to try and build up to it, but yeah, 19. 19 people. So I think that's almost 12% opt-in, you know, from conversion, from the webinar.
Yeah, from the amount of people who opted in to who actually signed up, around 12%, which is awesome, because industry average is like 1%. So you're doing something right there. So, okay, so that was your first launch. So you got 19 people signed up. Some of them committed to a year and some of them are on a monthly rolling, right?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, how did that feel to you?
It just kind of felt like it was working, like, you know, that kind of just idea that sort of you've got an idea and you know that sounds like a great idea, but actually until you start seeing the money coming in, and it was very exciting because it was all automated, and previously I'd invoiced always for work that I'd done, so this was very exciting, just seeing the money sort of automatically coming in. It felt like I'd got a business basically.
And just to be really clear with people, what I encouraged you to do, which I think is so key, is because initially I think you wanted to create a lot of the content up front and have everything ready, and weeks or months worth of content. And I really encourage you to actually just get going, like sell the thing. Yes, have a little bit of content in there. You put 3 or 4 things in there, but to really build it as you go, because these are your founding members and they get to steer and be part of this as well. And I encouraged you to do that, because what's important is to get into momentum. You needed to test the idea and make sure it would work, make sure it had legs, make sure people would actually buy, and then essentially you're creating it as you go. And I know that you create amazingly high standards of content, but that was that a little bit challenging for you to kind of dive into that mindset, that way of doing things?
Yeah, it definitely was, because I felt like people were going to be paying me for something that they would have expectations of a certain level, but I was getting kind of it was slowing me down, basically, the kind of thoughts that I had to have all of that completely perfect and ready. And actually the idea that we sort of co-create this, it's much more helpful to the members and it's helpful to me too. So actually we're working on this together, and it's meant now that I've started to get to know these 19 people really, really well, and I can actually sort of say to all of them, what's going to be most useful for you right now? Like, what do you want me to prioritize? And so that's been super helpful for them too, I think. So yeah.
Okay. And I wasn't going to go here, but I will, and only because, Jane, I think it's really helpful for people to not just see their amazing results, but also see some of the struggles. So I hope it's okay with you that I mentioned this, but you have had one cancellation, haven't you, just today? And, I said to you, I know it's not a good feeling milestone, but it is a milestone. And when we looked at it, that person was not an ideal fit. So this is such a normal part of business. And I want people to know, because it can feel really demoralizing when you've done all this work, but you actually shared the lady hadn't actually been on any of the calls anyway. And when we looked at it, she's probably not your ideal person. So it's really normal for that kind of thing to happen. And I told you that it's building your entrepreneurial muscle. So I just wanted to mention that. I hope that's okay with you.
Yeah, it's absolutely fine. And I think you're completely right. And this is going to happen. And these are the kind of challenges that you have to overcome. And if you approach all of this with a sort of growth mindset, which is what I've tried to do the entire time, so it's like, things are scary, they look like massive sort of insurmountable obstacles, but actually it's all part of the learning. And it was the first time I'd ever done anything like that, so how could I have known? I couldn't have done. It was only through going through it that you can kind of learn this stuff. So that's my first cancellation as well, and I wouldn't have had that experience, So now I've had that, and I'll be prepared for future. Hopefully not too many, but
Good. Sorry, that's my dog just barking. Of course, the delivery man comes right now, but never mind. We'll carry on. I wasn't even expecting a delivery. Okay, so that's really helpful for people to know. What's it been like working with me? What's your experience of working together?
It's been really good, Julie. I think that without you, I wouldn't have launched yet. No way. I may not have even continued on this kind of path to launching or creating a membership. Things have been really challenging, so it's been really lovely for me to have this 1 hour a week where I could just be me and just have my own time. That's what I'm really lacking right now, is that kind of solitude, because everybody's at home and it's just a full-on family kind of experience. So trying to carve out time to actually focus on work and focus on my goals, and having that kind of time in the diary every week has been really, really helpful. You've kind of held me accountable for these. So every week at the end, you always sort of say, so what are you going to take forward? And then that becomes my kind of action list for the week. It's sort of like having a kind of manager / colleague who kind of keeps you on track, which is exactly what I think you need as a sort of solo entrepreneur. You need somebody there who's going to have your back, but also challenge your thinking, make sure that I'm not getting too kind of comfortable, like that you're actually allowing me to kind of, to actually go for stuff and be courageous, I guess. So
fantastic, thank you. And it's such an honor to support you and work with you, because you've just gone out there and done the work, and it's like you said, some of the things looked insurmountable, but you just took the steps anyway. You're playing the long game, you've got a growth mindset. So where next? What's next?
So I'm going to launch again, probably at the beginning of October. So that's my next plan. And I'm also looking at doing some kind of VIP package so that people can either decide to join me on a monthly basis in the membership, or if they want to work with me, and they want to work with me on a slightly more in kind of one-to-one basis, I'm going to offer that as an option as well. So that's my next goal.
Exciting times ahead, and I think you plans to the intention is to double the amount of people you bring into your membership next time, isn't it?
Yeah.
No doubt that you will achieve it, because that's who you are. So there was one other thing I wanted to ask you. So yeah, anyone who's kind of considering doing something like this, that was what I wanted to ask you. In terms of the strategy that I shared with you, was that new to you? Was it anything you'd heard before, or?
No, I'd never heard that before. It was all totally new. So you shared with me the launch kind of sequence, which I know comes from the Jeff Walker book, which you suggested I bought. So I bought that and read that. It was all brand new. I'd never seen any of that stuff before. And yeah, it felt uncomfortable. I'm going to be totally honest. It felt really uncomfortable. And I just thought I'm really overdoing it. You know, it's just too much. I can't sort of be constantly talking about what I'm selling. It just felt uncomfortable. But I remember you sort of saying to me, you've got to think a bit more like the Americans do and just be more out there, you know, and you're right. It's just like the American people just seem to find that so much easier than us. We're a bit more reserved. And yeah, so having put together that kind of process, yeah, obviously next time it's going to feel a lot easier, but it was all totally brand new. And you were right, you know, people don't hear or see every single little bit of content that you put out. So even though you feel like you're really over egging it and you're really, they're probably only seeing like a tiny little percentage of that content. So you need that to kind of get that cut through. And I think my numbers proved that I did do that right, you know, that getting that kind of 12% conversion. Yeah.
It's so true, and that's so important for people to hear, because we all feel like it. We all feel like, oh my God, I'm saying this again. But actually, you need to be like a broken record for people to hear you, because as you say, they won't all see everything. So that's a really important message. What would you say to anyone who's considering working with me on this?
I'd say go for it. Like, just go for it. Give it a go, because what have you got to lose? You know, you've got everything to gain. So it's like, I think it's a real luxury, isn't it? For me anyway, I just feel like it's a real luxury to give yourself that permission and that time to just be sort of, it's not selfish, but, you know, just really invest in yourself. It's the most important investment that you're going to ever make, right? And I think if you're serious about your business, you have to get some kind of coaching or mentoring. I think I've really understood now the kind of importance of it. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be here without you. I definitely wouldn't.
Yeah, well, again, it's you who's done the work, but it's a pleasure to have guided thus far and to continue to guide. So yeah, like you said, really being your partner and, you know, bringing my expertise in and then meeting you and working together. And that's really where the magic is. So
different perspectives, you know, I think that's also really important. And what I liked about you is that you had some charity experience, but you're not within the charity world kind of thing. So actually that's been really helpful, because that's also got me out of that kind of, that's all I've ever known for the last sort of 20 odd years. So actually to get myself out of that has been really, really helpful.
Because there's a certain mentality, isn't there? And I know part of your mission is actually to begin to transform that and bring some wealth consciousness and some mindset and things into the way that people do things in the charity sector, which is so pioneering and I think is very needed. So this is exciting work.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Where can people find more about you if they're interested in what you do?
So my website is thecharityeventspecialists.com. So that's my website, and I'm on Facebook on /the Charity Event Specialists as well. And I'm on LinkedIn as well. So yeah, I'm all over.
Yeah, and of course you have your Facebook group.
Yeah.
So I just want to wrap up actually with just saying as well that tech wasn't really your strong point either, was it? Because I think that can be a big barrier for people sometimes, especially with things like membership. They think they have to be really good at tech, but you outsourced it, didn't you? So you got, I think your sister helped you a bit, and then you paid somebody to do your website, right? Is that true?
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. So yeah, there's no way that I could have built that website all by myself, and it's not my area of, it's not my genius zone at all. And that could have been a real sticking point for me. So I just totally outsourced it and was just like, here you go, you know, and paid this guy for a couple of days work, and he just did it all. He built the website, he did all the back end membership plugin, and we got it all like looped into the email list, so it's all completely automated now, which is fantastic. And yes, of course there's a bit of a financial outlay to do that, but if I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't have the membership, so I wouldn't be generating any money. So it's like, you've got to kind of go there, you've got to invest, haven't you? And
yeah, brilliant. Again, just massive congratulations. I'm really enjoying supporting you and can't wait for the next launch. So well done, Jane.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you so much.